What up, guys? It's your boy Forever One Wheel, and we're back. We finally got the twin cam motor in the bike, and basically, this video is going to be me going over what we did to the motor step by step. Unfortunately, I couldn't film it all though, but moving forward here, this was my crank bottom end that we got welded, balanced, and plugged. And then over here we had to use the zippers kit to clearance the cases for the cams a little bit. It was pretty messy, honestly. But this is what it ended up looking like after we clearanced everything. So we have more than enough room for any bigger cams if we want to run in the future. And then this part here, bolted in everything, torqued all the bolts for the cases, and also used Honda Bond to glue the cases together. So overall, it turned out pretty good. Here we started assembling the camchest kit. I had everything laid out. And unfortunately, I didn't film too much of this process, but I filmed as much as I could because I was learning in the process as well and really needed to focus. So here we got the cams all timed up, and I was getting ready to insert this into the motor. Make sure you put your O-rings into the bosses of the case, because I actually forgot to do that and I had to take out the cams again and put them back in. But yeah, so here we're checking the run out on the crank that I got done by Patrice in Montreal, and it was basically 1.5 thou, I think 2 thou. So here I was just prepping the oil pump. You gotta use a lot of assembly lube. Make sure there's a good amount in there so when you start this bad boy up, nothing burns up. And basically this was just me test fitting the oil pump in. Ideally, you want to do it the way Feuling says and have the cam plate attached to the oil pump so that I can go in as one unit, because if you do it separately, it will pull the oil pump out and might compromise the seal. So here I'm doing the sequencing for turning over the motor and torquing everything to spec. You have to do it a number of times. If you watch any of Feuling's videos, it'll explain how to do it properly. Honestly, the instructions are really well written. You could easily follow them and know what to do. You just have to pay attention to what you're doing, honestly. But yeah, that was just to make sure the oil pump is centered. Here, I was just setting up the alignment of the chain. You just have to pick the right spacer that goes behind the cam sprocket, and yeah, you have to use feeler gauges and whatnot to set the proper alignment there. It's pretty simple. You just have to watch a couple videos on it. You can do it, no problem. So in this next clip over here, I got my Feuling lifters. So I had to make sure that you pump these up prior to inserting them in the motor. So I used my trusty oil can right here and basically just put them in the feed hole right there and pump them up till no air bubbles come out. After we got the lifters all buttoned up, basically just put the gasket with the tappet covers in and our nice stainless steel hardware, and we got the bottom end basically all buttoned up. Unfortunately, I couldn't film any of the piston work because I was too busy doing it. But yeah, these are my heads that I received also from Patrice in MTL. So these are 06 up heads that I got reworked, and super pumped with how they turned out. This is when, after the cylinders, we put the gaskets and we had to torque those to 42 foot-pounds. There's a whole sequence to putting everything on there, but yeah. Now just moving on to the rocker boxes. Got all those buttoned up. Just some simple stuff. Didn't really do anything crazy. Didn't bother getting the Feuling ones. Just run these. Then now we were doing the S&S adjustable push rods. So this was kind of tricky for me to learn, but we put our O-rings in and we got them in there and adjusted to get our final engine right there. So yeah, that was my first twin cam build. That was just a view of the intake ports there. But yeah, next clip here, we were just putting the stator back in, putting some silicone on that part, and basically you just got to shove it through the hole. After that, I used this tool to drive in a new seal on the side. I forget what it was called, but definitely important. Then we got our spacer for our rotor, and that slips on too. So yeah, you gotta be careful when you're putting the rotor back on. Make sure that you don't shatter any magnets. But here we got the motor back home. Just had to replace a couple hoses on the transmission with some fresh clamps, and I was going to use gear clamps before, but I figured I'd use the proper tool because my boss let me borrow it. So I got some clamps and the crimp tool, and that's that. So this was a little bit of a mission trying to mount the motor in by myself. I would recommend having somebody help you if you can. But yeah, I actually ended up breaking my oil pressure sensor fitting on the end because it hit off something while I was putting it in there. So note to self, don't thread that in till after you put the motor in because it's a pretty delicate piece. Luckily I got a replacement, so it's all fresh. After you get the motor inside the bike again and you get it lined up with the dowels, basically we got to do our engine to tranny case bolts. So I opted to switch those to stainless steel because I didn't like the old cruddy ones. So basically for that, red Loctite on them, and you torque them to 15 foot-pounds first, and then you go around again and torque them to 30 to 35, which is what I did. Over here, next step was to put some pipe dope on my fittings. These are just a pipe thread fitting, but it's always good to put some sealant on there just so there's no leaks. You also don't want to tighten these too much because they will just keep going and you could really pull the threads out. So you just kind of go by feel on these. I think there is a torque spec for them, but I just decided to just do it by hand, do it by feel, and it should be good enough. Like I said, you don't need to be extremely tight, but just tight enough to create a seal. And yeah, this top one was a little bit of a pain. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole motor build. Honestly, this was my first twin cam build. It's kind of nerve-wracking at some points because I've never done this before, but I was lucky to have some guidance from my boss at Corey's Custom Cycles. So yeah, basically what we did was we did a full crank up rebuild of this 95-inch Screaming Eagle motor. So it's basically a stock Harley crank. We got it rebuilt with fresh bearings. It was trued, it was welded, it was plugged. So that's bulletproof. We went with a Feuling OEM Plus camchest kit to get rid of the shitty spring tensioners and convert to hydraulic. We got Feuling 525 cams, S&S quickie push rods, just 10 over board cylinders, and then we have 06 heads that we got ported and polished, and bigger valves. I think it was a stage 2 from Patrice in Montreal. And yeah, after that it's pretty much just stock all up top. Changed out all the hardware for stainless steel, and that's basically it. So excited to see how it's going to feel compared to what it did before, but basically I just wanted it to be bulletproof and solid. So hopefully that's the case, and hopefully she's a ripper for wheelies. We'll see how long she lasts, but I'm pretty stoked that I got to build this, and it was my first motor build ever. And unfortunately I didn't get to film everything about it, but on the next Dyna build we will definitely get more footage. We're just waiting on a chain kit now so we can button up that whole primary side, and we got to get the Thundermax going. We got a headlight coming too from Villa Tucky Customs, so that should be sick. It should be a pretty solid mount that won't fly out when you do wheelies. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole 95-inch build. pretty stoked to see how it's going to feel in comparison to a stock motor. Like I said, it's my first build ever, so I'm excited to see what a welded crank is going to feel like, and if I'm going to notice any of the stuff that I did. Like, I've never had heads done on a bike before, so that should be interesting too to feel, because a lot of people swear that with Harleys you really got to do the heads on them, because just getting more air into the motor definitely helps create some more power. So it will be interesting to see how this feels compared to my Dyna. And like I said, eventually down the road I'm going to build the Dyna motor, so that will be another video. Probably not anytime soon, but it's definitely something I want to look into in the future. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the engine build. Stay tuned for more videos coming up on the Road Glide. We should have a few more videos lined up before the build is complete for now. But yeah, thanks guys. Take care.